Good morning, everybody. Please do take your seats. Welcome to Oxford. It's just a lovely morning here this morning. I'm so happy that it is a nice morning. I'm also happy that you are far less well-disciplined than the average Oxford class, where I just kind of look at them and they go, ooh, and sit down, and we start. I was standing here looking at you for about 2 minutes, and the theme of today is disruption. So we do need to disrupt some established orders. We need to collaborate because we have to collaborate on these international and global environmental challenges, and we have to act because we're running out of time. So welcome to Oxford, welcome to St Hilda's. This is a wonderful college, founded in 1893 as a women's hall, and one of the last holdouts for gender equality, actually. It took until 2008 before the college admitted men. But I'm very happy that Oxford had women's colleges. I wouldn't have married my wife had it not been for such colleges, because her parents wouldn't have met. And there's many stories I can tell you about illegal scalings of walls in the middle of the night some 50-odd years ago. It still actually happened until very recently. This building, the Jacqueline du Pré building, has a wonderful acoustic, as you would expect, those of you who are music lovers. The last time I was in here, I was having a singing lesson. Not because I can sing well, precisely because I can't, but we will at least enjoy the great acoustic. So my name's Cameron Hepburn. I'm director of the Smith School of Enterprise and the Environment and professor of environmental economics. And we're just very happy to have you all back here. It's a small gathering. It's a little bit of an elite gathering. You've been invited here because of who you are and what you know and the sorts of people you are, because we think we can get some ideas going. This is not a day for grand speeches, although they can be grand, but it's a day focused on what do we need to do, and how do we do it, and who has to do it, and when do they have to do it, and what help do they need, and how can we navigate, move the pieces around to deliver change. And so you're here because partly to share ideas in this forum, but also to go up and meet other people, talk to other people, and just see where these little moments of collaboration exist, where you can take things forward. So I hope you'll do that, I hope you'll network, and I hope you'll get something out of our time together. The event is being filmed, and there are photographers around. If you don't want to be to be used in that way, please do let us know. We're not here to make a big press deal about it. Indeed, we want to have a rather in-camera discussion. There is, however, a social media hashtag to go with it. It's hashtag WFEE, World Forum on Enterprise and the Environment. And the Smith School Twitter account is @the Smith School. This is very clever, or at least it seems to me. So I'm saying this because it's no thanks to me. But you can use this little code on the back of your name tags. It's a QR code to find the agenda. So if at any point in time you're thinking, is the chair being ludicrously lax and are we running late? Please jump on, or whatever. And you can also give us your thoughts about the event and evaluate the event. But, and one last thing for me to say before I have the great pleasure of introducing our Vice-Chancellor, is there is a photography exhibition as part of the event. Fran Monks, who is a local artist, has been taking photos of climate negotiators around the world. So it's an interestingly relevant artistic exhibition for you to observe, because it shows this collaboration process in action. It's not always pretty, actually. Those of you who've spent some time at climate conferences know that it's not always pretty, but it is worth celebrating what's happening there. And we may hear a little bit from Honourable Minister Claire Perry later in the day, in fact over dinner, some of the tales of political tales from the front lines. We've got a few others who can tell us tales from the front lines, in fact, coming up very shortly. But let me get to the main event, at least right now. Dame Louise Richardson is our Vice-Chancellor. She has been immensely supportive of the Smith School from day one. We're very grateful to you, Louise, for your support. and it's great that it's continued almost all the way to the end of your tenure, although, as she was just saying to me, she's as busy as ever and is going to have literally one day rest, I think, between finishing up here and taking the next job. She's a very distinguished academic as well, and has given so much service to higher education, having, before becoming Vice-Chancellor of Oxford, being the Vice-Chancellor of the University of St Andrews. So thank you very much for opening the event. I welcome Professor Dame Louise Richardson. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cameron, and good morning, everyone. I'm absolutely delighted to have this chance to welcome you to this World Forum on Enterprise and the Environment right here in St Hilda's. It need hardly be said that this forum is taking place at a time of unprecedented global fragility, geopolitically, economically, societally, and environmentally. And underpinning all of this, of course, is the climate emergency and the really narrowing window that we have to avert catastrophic climate change. So it seems particularly fitting that this forward-looking event should take place in a very ancient institution. We are so old, we are very old, so old we don't quite know how old, but roughly around 900 years. And our mission hasn't changed since then. It has been to push at the frontiers of knowledge, to educate the next generation, and to contribute to the world around us. And that's what this gathering of thinkers and leaders is all about. So for centuries, the University of Oxford has served to convene and concentrate minds on society's biggest challenges. The notion that we are a remote ivory tower is a myth. And the beautiful ancient buildings belie the fact that, notwithstanding this long history, we are a very forward-looking institution. So this World Forum, as Cameron said, is being convened by the Smith School of Enterprise and the Environment in the spirit of this long-standing tradition of bringing people together to think great thoughts and to think about how the product of these thoughts can be applied for societal benefit. So the challenges that we're facing and the goal of this gathering, as Cameron has said, is to bring people together to generate debate and big ideas that could lead to real progress towards advancing our net zero and sustainable development goals, and to investigate how they can most effectively be translated into climate policy, financed, implemented, and rendered politically acceptable. So these challenges are reflected in the theme of today's forum: collaboration, disruption, and action. Collectively, these themes are meant to convey the opportunity to concentrate climate action on areas that make the greatest real difference, catalyzing positive impact loops with multiplier effects, and collaborating across systems to avoid unintended consequences and bring about the scale of change that's necessary. So today's sessions, broadly covering geopolitics, energy, finance, and innovation, are designed to catalyze ideas by bringing government, public and private enterprise together with world-leading researchers. Now, the Smith School is exemplary in this regard, combining academic excellence across policy labs and research groups with a deep understanding of real-world impact. So their research, executive education, and policy labs have helped shape policy and public narrative around key issues on climate, energy, on food, on water, on biodiversity, and the regenerative economy. From solutions to incentivize private investments, to the scaling and adoption of solutions to decarbonize sectors in the global economy, to providing governments with information and tools to enable sound decision-making for the future. I was just perusing some of the recent publications of the Centre, and they could not be more important, or indeed more focused on applying our research. One is how a fast transition to clean energy is cheaper than slow or no transition and could save us trillions of dollars. Second is on the co-benefits of green fiscal spending in relation to the post-pandemic economic recovery, how green government investments are demonstrably superior to dirty investment options. They can be faster, create more jobs, and boost economic growth. A third is on the most effective policies for the decarbonisation of transport. The largest and most effective interventions involved a pricing mechanism such as a carbon or fuel tax often coupled with other measures, such as financial incentives for greener vehicles, to help consumers move away from fossil fuels. And finally, one that received national attention here was an estimate of the environmental impact of 57,000 food products in the UK and Ireland, providing a first step towards enabling consumers, retailers and policymakers to make informed decisions on environmental impacts of food and drink products. And I have to say, I know I wasn't alone in thinking this was a fantastic idea. To those of us who always look at the calorie content of whatever we're buying, to look at the carbon impact, I think, could really have an impact on human behavior. Anyway, I'd like to express our thanks to the sponsors of this year's forum, the Bank of America and Lombard Odier, who enabled us to gather today. And thanks too to all our speakers for taking the time to share your views and expertise. And a special and warm, heartfelt thanks to the founder of the Smith School, Sir Martin Smith, who's sitting here today. So we're now going to begin with a message from COP26 President Alok Sharma, and then it will be back to Professor Cameron Hepburn, who you have just met, to chair the opening session. So I hope it's a very enjoyable and productive day for you all. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm sorry I can't be with you in person. I'm currently in New York for the United Nations General Assembly and New York Climate Week. But I'm very grateful to the Vice Chancellor, the Smith School, and the University of Oxford for the kind invitation to address today's event. And I must say that the themes of the forum, collaboration, disruption, action, are incredibly relevant. They are in many ways the central themes of the UK's COP presidency. It's now 10 months since the world came to Glasgow for COP26 and agreed, under the UK stewardship, the historic Glasgow Climate Pact. That pact, and indeed the commitments that were made outside the negotiating rooms by countries and companies alike, stand as testament to the power of the multilateral system to collaborate by rising above political differences in the face of a shared global challenge and finding common ground. Collectively, we agreed an ambitious program of work. Every country agreed to revisit and strengthen their 2030 emission reduction targets by the end of this year. The $100 billion climate finance delivery plan set out that we will reach the $100 billion goal by 2023. Developed nations agreed to collectively double the amount of adaptation finance for developing countries by 2025 from 2019 levels. And collectively, we also recognize the need to deliver a step change in climate finance, turning the billions of dollars already flowing into the trillions that we absolutely need. Much of which, of course, must come from the private sector. Now, these are just a few examples of what we agreed in Glasgow. But because of the commitments made in Glasgow, we could say at the end of COP26 with credibility that we had kept alive the prospect of limiting the rise in average global temperatures to 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial levels. And during our presidency year, we've been squarely focused on turning those promises into action. The multiple global crises precipitated by the Putin regime's brutal and illegal invasion of Ukraine and the increasingly frequent and ferocious extreme weather events sweeping continents this summer have only sharpened the urgency of that task. If I was a shepherd-in-chief at COP26, I've regarded myself as auditor-in-chief during the UK's presidency year. Over the past 2 years, I've visited almost 50 countries, meeting presidents, prime ministers, and ministers, pushing for action. And I've been particularly focused on getting the major emitters, the G20 nations, to deliver what they agreed in Glasgow. And that is my focus in New York this week. I've also engaged widely with civil society and the business and financial services sector too. In all of this work, my message has been clear. Yes, we are making some progress. We must go further and faster. In terms of revised 2030 emission reduction targets, as I speak, over 20 have been submitted to the United Nations. That includes a number of G20 nations, including India and Australia. Other G20 countries will come forward with their own targets later this year. But we need every country to deliver on their commitments. A handful of new long-term strategies have moved us in the right direction. But again, we must go further still. Yes, it's good news that 2.5 billion people across the world are now covered by adaptation plans. But that, frankly, should not be the limit of our ambition. And whilst the recent OECD climate finance figures do show that we are moving in the right direction, particularly on adaptation finance, we are still falling some way short. Both public and private finance must start flowing in far greater volumes than it currently does to countries and projects that need it most. Now, turning to your final theme, disruption or innovation is an important part of all this work. Take, for example, the Glasgow Breakthroughs, which we launched at COP26, and which set out a series of actions across 5 key economic sectors that together represent more than 50% of global emissions. That means innovative clean technologies and sustainable emission reduction solutions for power, agriculture, transport, steel, and in hydrogen. The UK, in its role as the current secretariat of the Breakthrough Agenda, has taken the recommendations from this month's independent Breakthrough Agenda report and has convened partner countries to set out our priority projects. These projects will allow us to work together internationally to accelerate innovation and deployment, sending a clear signal to industry, creating economies of scale, and bringing down the costs of key technologies more quickly. We've already seen this in the renewable sector, but we need to replicate this across other sectors. If we can deliver these projects and the Glasgow Breakthroughs in full, we can create millions of new jobs by 2030. Estimates suggest that we could boost world GDP by 4% by 2030. And by 2050, we could save 2 million lives every year by halving premature deaths associated with air pollution. So friends, we know the opportunities presented by a clean and sustainable transition, built on collaboration, on action, and on disruption, are vast, environmentally and economically. And we know that the risks of falling short are potentially catastrophic for countries and communities around the world. We really should need no further motivation. And we will be judged by our populations and by current and future generations on whether or not we rise to this challenge. Thank you.